Hey guys, Michael here. Today I'm going to go through the process of engraving on a curved surface using the P2. Stick with me, let's get to it. The beautiful thing about the curved surface process is that it allows your engraver to engrave on a curved surface such as this salad spoon. Normal engraving, you would balance, it would focus on the top part and it would just go left and right over that. Now the problem is, as you're coming over here off to the right or to the left, that distance will actually increase from the laser head, whereas this part is in focus, this part's not. That will make your engraving shallower, not as dark as the one in the middle, and just wouldn't look consistent. The advantage of the curved surface is that once you actually measure this, the laser head will follow it just like that. Now what we're going to do today is actually engrave on this bowl right here. Now this bowl, as you can see, it's curved this way and it's curved this way. Trying to do this on a regular laser without the curved surface ability, you can't do it. You can only engrave on the outside edges, but even then it would be light here in the middle because you would focus here on the end. So I'm going to put this inside the P2 and I'm going to show you how to set up this curved surface engraving. Here we are looking inside the P2. As you can see, I have all the slats removed, the honeycomb is removed, and I do have the crumb tray installed. However, the crumb tray is lowered down 2 or 3 notches. The reason is when I take my bowl and put it inside the P2, I want the highest point of this bowl, which are the corners here, about the same height as the slats if they were installed. This is going to allow the camera to actually get the best measurement of your curved surface. Now that I have my height set up, next thing I want to do is make sure this is going to be square with the gantry so the engraving is straight on my bowl. One trick I found was with the P2 turned off, you can move the gantry by hand. You can take a piece of 3mm plywood and hold it against the gantry, push the bowl against that plywood, move it back and take that out. Now I know this bowl is actually square with this gantry. Now, of course, if you had a round bowl, you wouldn't need to do that, but I did find this trick very handy to use when I need to engrave on a rectangular or square piece such as this. Now that I have everything set up and this is in the middle, I can close the lid and head over to XCS. Here we are in XCS. It has connected to the P2 and already refreshed, and I can see the bowl inside the P2. One trick I found was if you use the curved surface, you cannot use the camera. So a way around that is if I put it in open plane and measure the distance down to about halfway through the bowl. This is the deepest part. This is the highest part. So I'm going to pick somewhere in the middle. That will set the distance to this. What that's going to do is actually allow me to use the capture close view and find the corner of my bowl or an edge of the bowl if it were round. Once you know that, then I can actually take my object on the screen and sort of line it up with the bowl or the object that you want to engrave before you switch over to curve process. Now zooming out, as you can see, I've already have my engraving set up. I have a rectangle here, as you can see. This is 295 millimeters long, 144 millimeters wide. This is the size of my bowl. I'm going to move this up here, zooming in, and put it close to the edge of the bowl. Now that's not exact, but that's going to be much better than not being able to see the bowl at all. What I can do is I can check the bottom right hand corner if I want, use the capture close view. And see how well that looks. And that looks pretty good. So I can move this just a little bit more, split the difference here. Once I confirm my location using the open plane, measuring the distance, and using the camera, I can now switch over to curve process. Knowing that this rectangle is on top of my rectangular bowl, I'm going to move my 2 objects that I want to process on the bowl up here. Now, as you can see, I have 2 different colors. One of them is set to engrave and one of them is set to score. I want to put them on top of each other, so I'm going to select them both. I'm going to align horizontal and then align vertical. Now I know they're on top of each other. I'm going to go ahead and group them together. That way I don't have to worry about moving them around too much. Group them, and then I'm going to zoom in and make sure it locks in the middle of my rectangle. The next thing I need to do is actually measure the curved surface and actually come up with a 3D diagram of what my bowl looks like. I'm going to select curve measure. So what we're about to do in the software is measure the curvature of the bowl. So in this case, I have a spoon in my hand, and what it's going to do is measure the distance, how far down each point of this spoon is, or in our case, the bowl. And what that's going to do is tell the laser head how far down it needs to go to stay in focus. Now the problem is, if you're doing a round object, let's say this were a round bowl, if you're going to engrave or you need to measure the distance, you want to engrave around the edge of this. Problem is, you have to engrave over here in the open when there's no wood here, and it's going to fail because it's going to look further down and it's going to say, sorry, it's too far, I can't measure that, and it will not let you process the image. So a way around that is to stack up pieces of scrap wood or put something on top of this, like some tape or something. Come up with a way to let the laser head actually hit something on the sides where there's nothing there, it's out in the air, and then that way it gets inside the bowl and it has no problem seeing this, but you want to make sure it hits something on the outside edges. That's only a problem when you're actually doing something round. In this case, we're going to be doing a rectangular bowl, so it's not going to be an issue. If I were to take this and I wanted to engrave on this spoon, what I would probably do is I would make a rectangle using the smallest part of this width here and just make it measure from here to here and not worry too much about engraving on the outside lips of this. If I did want to engrave the outside lips, I'd have to get creative and come up with a way to make this as wide as it is up here, down here, so that it won't fail when it gets beyond here and trying to measure the distance of this. So let's head back to XCS and let's measure our bowl. Now this is the part that I have to run around and looking crazy because my computer is way over here and my P2 is over here. So what I have to do is kind of go back and forth. I'm going to move my laser head using XCS, using that arrow key, and then I'm going to come over here to the P2 and look to see where the dot is. It has a laser dot that's shooting down, and I want to make sure I find the top left corner like it shows in the picture. So I'm going to move it 2 times to the right, 1 time down, and then come back over here, and the laser head or the dot is actually in the middle of the bowl. So I'm way too far to the right and too far down. So let me adjust that and see what happens. So I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to go 50 up. Oops. Let's see what that looks like. Nope. Okay, I'm on the bowl. Now I need to go a little bit to the left. Almost. This is a lot easier when you have your computer next to the P2. All right, now the laser head or the dot from the laser is in the top left corner. Now that's in the top left corner where I want it to be, I'm going to come down here and click the mark button. That's going to tell XCS this is the top left corner of that bowl. I'm going to repeat the process until I find the bottom right hand corner. Since I'm going to be moving a long distance, I'm going to set this back to a 100 and start moving until I find this distance. Okay, so now that we've marked the top left and the bottom right of our bowl, we're ready to close the lid and let XCS measure and map out the bowl. On this next screen, you have the ability to adjust the density of how much it's going to measure and how many points it's going to measure of this bowl. This bowl is a really smooth, not too many jagged edges, so I'm going to lower this because I don't think I need this many dots to measure this. So I went ahead and adjusted this to 6 rows and 6 columns. It's really up to you in deciding how many points you need to measure or how dense you want this to be. Depending on how complex your curved surface is, you may have to increase or decrease this. Now that I have this ready to go, I have my lid closed. I'm going to hit start measuring and wait for this to measure. Here it is measuring. As it's measuring, you can see exactly where it's at. As it measures each dot, you can see it change color and move on to the next. Now that it's finished, it gives you a preview of what the curved surface mapped out to be. You can move it around using your mouse. You can adjust the smoothness if you want to make it a little bit smoother, adjust the tension, and also you have the ability to view your engraving or what you want to do on the object. Clicking map, as you can see, this is what my engraving is going to look like on this piece. If you pick map and the object is not visible, that means you need to make an adjustment. You can come over here and click done, and you can make an adjustment to your object. Whereas if this object was outside of this white area, this is the mapped out area. If it were outside of the area, let's say it's way over here, and if I come over here to remap it and click on map, it's not going to work saying there's no element because this is outside the processing area. It's not going to work. So I can go back over here, readjust this, and click on the preview again, click on map, and now it's going to work. A couple of things about this curved surface process is the curve measure can only be done once. Once you do it, it's measured and you cannot change it. If you want to change it, you have to start all over again of the curved surface process. You can preview it by clicking this again. However, once you pick this, it's going to wipe out what you previously measured and have to start over with the curve process measurement. Also, if you save this and come back later, the curve measurement is gone. You have to start over on the curved surface process from the very beginning, finding the top left and the bottom right. Okay, I have everything set up, ready to go. I have the outside objects turned off. I have the inside objects turned on. I can hit process. I'm going to hit start. Hit the button on the P2 and away we go. Well, here she is. There's my final product. The curved surface feature works really well on something like this. And it also works great on any bowl, whatever object you want to do with that. It just has some limitations. If you check out the xTool website, they'll show you what limitations it has. It can't be like a greater angle than 45 degree because that nozzle needs to be able to get down in there and to focus on it. And also when you're doing that round object, you need to make sure you kind of put some scrap material or maybe some masking tape around that piece so that the laser can hit it. Even though you're not going to engrave on it, you still need to hit it and not fall off, and so that it can actually focus on this and build that mesh, a 3D mesh, to actually set your engraving to it. So I'm not sure if you know this yet or not, but if you expand the description of this video, there are multiple links in there. There are affiliate links. So if you want to purchase things from xTool, whether it be materials or a P2 or something else, if you go through my affiliate link, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does give me something a little bit later, just a little bump to help me support this channel in different ways, buying material and stuff like that to put out these videos. Also, in that same description, there's a material settings page. Check out that link. It is my Google document. Am I hitting the mic? I don't know. So it's my Google document where I have all the material settings that I use on the P2 in my shop. xTool has their own settings. They have their own settings on their palette. However, I have my own settings that I want to use or that I use on a daily basis. That is in that shared Google Sheet. It's available to anybody out there. Click on it and you can see that. And there's all kinds of other information in there. There's different test grids you can see. There's public settings that people put in there. Yeah, it's a bunch of information on that material settings page. So that link is in the description down below. So that's all I want to share with you guys. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.